patrons, welcome to today's tutorial. Today's video is just going to be a tutorial on how to draw these red lips and the cherries. Hopefully you can see that. So yes, it initially took me 6 hours to draw this drawing, so I cut down that video into an hour tutorial, and I have a voiceover throughout the entire process. What I have done in this video is I've added the color that I'm using every time. I've added the color to the top left of the video so that you know which color I'm using at all times, because I won't mention every color as I go because it's just too many, and I keep changing about all the time. So feel free to pause so that you can have a look at the colors properly, or so that you can I guess try and get yourself at the same point. So I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial and that it's really useful, and I'll see you guys at the end. Bye. Okay, so I have two prints available. You're going to use one colored print as a reference photo, and the other one you're going to use as a disposable print. So this print can just be printed on normal printing paper, and it doesn't have to be in color, it can be in black and white. So on your disposable print, you are going to cover the entire back area with a 2B pencil, and we are going to use this for the outline of the drawing. So once you have that covered, put the print flat again and fix it to your drawing paper with a piece of masking tape. You only need to put a small piece on the right side of the print. And then you are going to take a sharp pencil or pen, and you're going to outline the entire print. Now, if you are a beginner, then I'd advise that you would outline every single detail that you can, because this is obviously going to help you later on. So I am also going to outline every single detail just for the sake of this tutorial. The more you draw and the more you get used to all of this, you will realize that you don't need to outline as many details, that you would be okay with just outlining the real basic details. So if this wasn't a tutorial, the only outline that I would do would be just around the outer lips, around the teeth, and just around each cherry. I wouldn't worry about all the other details, because I feel confident enough that I would be able to progress with those little details on my own. But for the sake of this tutorial, I will show you what I did in the beginning while I was learning. I did outline every single detail, and remember, when you do this outline, do not press too firmly. You just want the slightest little outline left on your drawing paper. If you press too firmly, you're going to indent your drawing paper, which is going to be a problem, because when you indent your paper, no color will go into those indents, and it would leave almost like highlighted marks in your paper. Now, we do use an indentation technique sometime in this tutorial, where that is exactly what we want. We indent the paper to keep some areas highlighted, but for this entire outline, we do not want to indent the paper, so be careful not to press too firmly. You just want the outline appearing just slightly enough for you to see it. So just check your outline, make sure you haven't missed any details. I missed some details on the bottom lip, so I'm just going to add that in now. Or I'm going to add it in soon. I decided that I didn't want to draw the skin, that I was just going to draw the lips and the cherries. So I'm just erasing those extra marks that I created for the skin. And now I'm going to go back in and just fill in those last few details that I missed on the bottom lip. once you have the entire outline done, you can remove the print and yeah, you can get rid of it. We're not going to need it anymore. So now we are going to use the swatches that we created to find the colors in the lips. So I'm going to provide you guys with a list of all the colors that I used. I have used Faber-Castell pencils as well as Prismacolor pencils. Now please note that you do not have to have the same pencils as what I have. All you have to do is just create swatches like this of your own pencils, and then you can find the colors this way as well. So each swatch for each pencil has about 4 to 6 different colors. So the way we do the swatch for each color, you would have pretty much 2 lines and divide it into 2 rectangles, and then on the top rectangle you will just use your pencil color and shade it in from dark to light. So in the beginning you'll use a heavy hand to make it dark, and then you'll use a light hand to make it light. On the bottom line, you're going to do a full underlayer of white pencil, and then on top of that you are going to go from dark to light again with that same color. You'll notice then that each color has 4 to 6 different color tones, and that's really good because at least you're making the most use out of one pencil, and you can find those colors in your drawings. Okay, so now that we've found all our colors, we are ready to start. So I'm going to start on the dark area of the lip just next to the cherry. Now this area has got a lot of shadow, so this will be the darkest area on the lips. So I'm using a Crimson Lake to gently fill in a little bit of that area. And then I'm going to use my Mortoon Violet, which is even darker. So I realize that this area is going to be really dark. So I am going to put this over the color I just put down with a light hand and just do a little layer over that. Using my Crimson Lake, which is one of my base colors for the lips, I'm just going to fill in a little more around the lips. Now observe your reference photo at all time and make sure that you try and get the shapes down in the right direction, and you'll notice that some places you want to press a little bit harder than others, and this is going to help you create those different values. Value is the transition between light and dark in color, so value is very important in realism, and you can get a few different values just by using one color. So Crimson Lake is another one of our base colors, so I'm just lightly putting a little bit down just under the highlighted area. And then as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I mentioned something about etching and the places where you do and don't want to use it. And this, we're getting close to where we do want to use it, so we want to use it just around the outer areas of the lip. So if you look at the top lip, just on the right side of the top lip and the bottom lip, you'll see all these tiny little, I don't know, creases just there. There's little creases over there on the top lip, and there's little creases on the bottom lip, and we are going to use a sharp tool. You don't have to have the same tool as me. You could probably even use a toothpick if you have to, and you are just going to lightly scratch those little creases that you can see in the reference photo. You are going to scratch those creases into your drawing paper. Now the reason we are doing this is because our pencil points don't even get as sharp as the tip of that etching tool, and what happens when we put color over it, which you can only just see right now with the middle cadmium red, is when you put colors over it, the color doesn't actually fill in those indents of your paper, which is really good because at least it keeps those areas highlighted and white, and by the time we need to blend with our solvent, you'll realize how those areas pop out because the color just doesn't go into those indents. So with your first couple of layers with your reds like this, you will notice that everything looks like crayon. Nothing looks smooth, and you don't want it to look like crayons. You want it to look smooth, and that's the whole reason we use an odorless solvent later on. The solvent is going to make everything look smooth. It's going to blend into the paper. It's going to make the colors more pigmented, and it's going to make a big difference. You never have to use pressure to get things to look smooth. You just have to keep layering with the light hand, and the more you layer with the light hand, the more colors you'll be able to put on top of each other, and the more you blend with your solvent, the more room it also gives you to keep layering. So permanent carmine is another red tone that I picked from my color chart. So I'm just going to fill in some of these areas on the lips, remembering to keep the direction of what I'm looking at in mind and always drawing in the right direction. So on the top left of the video, you will always see which color I am using at the time. I'm not going to mention every single color. It will be on the screen for you to look at. So you'll notice that on some areas of the lips I'm pressing harder with this pencil, and on some areas I'm not pressing hard at all. This is to help create the different values by the use of one pencil. So it just shows you how you can get a few different colors from one color. Now using my Mortuum Violet, I am going to create a little bit more of a shadow right under the lips and just between the teeth. Now the inside of the mouth is almost black, so if you look at the reference photo it looks really dark, but you do not want to fill this area in black. You always want to use your surrounding colors before you use a black, and then that way when you blend the black with your surrounding colors it doesn't look completely flat or completely black because it still has some other colors in it. So using the violet and using some crimson, I'm going to fill in those reds in the mouth area and then gradually build up those tones. Now there's an area that's right behind the teeth, inside the mouth, and this area we are going to fill in with terracotta, and then we're going to layer that with our reddish tones before we even get anywhere close to using the black over everything inside the mouth. Now the reason we're using terracotta in here is to separate this area from the rest of the mouth. So this is the only area in this drawing that is going to have this color, and this is just going to help separate the inner area of the mouth from the surrounding area of the mouth. We will still put red on there so that it can blend better because you always want to use the surrounding colors in whatever you are drawing. So we are taking the Pompeian red and just layering over the terracotta just a little bit so that it will blend better with the background. Also the inside of the mouth is quite dark, so we want to gradually build up to that dark value. So just going in with my Mortuum Violet, I am just creating a little more of a darker value in the mouth, and now I'm finally getting to layering with black. Now that we have surrounding colors within the mouth, we can take the black as an overlayer. Be very careful that you don't cover every single area with black. The area just behind the teeth on the left isn't black, so do not cover that with any black. And use a light hand, you never have to press hard. Now, using your opaque wax white pencil, you're going to fill in the entire highlighted area on the lip. Now, this is going to come in very useful later because when you use the white as an underlayer, the color that you're going to use on top is never going to be as dark. And this is good because this is a light highlight. You don't want to accidentally make the area too dark, so the white pencil kind of helps you avoid that a little. So just using my Pompeian red, I'm just going to fill in a few more areas of the lip. And then the highlighted area in the lip isn't completely white. There's quite a little bit of pink in there. So I'm going to use my pink rose to fill in the highlighted area. Now I cannot go too dark with this because I have a white underlayer, so this is very useful. This little piece on the lip right here is right next to the fleshly part, so I'm going to add a bit of beige sienna, which is sort of like a purplish flesh tone, and it's also got a bit of a pinkish hue in it, so this is going to help blend the lip and the skin together. And then just touching up with a bit more of the pink. Now for the fun part, we are going to blend our first layers that we have placed on the lips. So just lightly dip your paintbrush into your odorless solvent, dab any excess off onto a towel, and go ahead and blend all the colors that you have put on your lips. So any areas that you have covered with colored pencil, you are going to blend with your solvent. And notice that even though I'm going over the highlighted area with my brush, it's not changing the colors at all. It is just blending it smooth. You don't have to worry about the solvent smudging all your colors together. It doesn't push the color around very much at all. So you can just go ahead and blend the entire surface without worrying about colors mixing into each other. And notice how smooth it makes it look. Also notice that those creases we created with the etching tool earlier on isn't letting the solvent come in. So you can see those creases slowly pop out a little on the sides of the lips. So just blending the inside of the mouth. And there you can immediately see that it doesn't look like crayons anymore. It's already starting to have a much smoother textured look. Well, not textured, a much smoother look. Less crayon textured. So using your Crimson Lake, you are going to fill in some of those darker areas. And just gradually build up on those colors again. So observe your reference and notice which areas are darker. The lips have sort of creases in it, so some areas of the lips are going to be darker compared to others. So just gradually find those darker values and start filling them in lightly. So directly under the highlight on the upper lip is a fair bit of dark values straight beneath the highlight and a bit on the top as well. So that is what we are filling in right now. So now I'm using my permanent red. It's a bit more of a brighter, lighter kind of red. So we're going to use this to fill in the rest of the areas around the highlights and the lips. And this also makes the lips look brighter and makes them pop out a little bit more. So just with the light hand, we're going to layer the surface of the lips with this color. Now using the crimson red, we are going to do the same thing over the layer we just did right now. With our Pompeian red, we are going to fill in the little gum areas just between the teeth and under the upper lip. There's a slight little highlight on the gum, so try not to fill that one in. Just fill the surrounding areas. And we need to go in with the Pompeian red just behind the teeth, just to add more value there as it needs to be darker. Now I'm using a Deco Pink, which is a darker shade of pink. If you notice in the highlight, there's got a few shades of pink in there, not just one. So I'm using the Deco Pink as the darker shade of pink within the highlighted areas. Now there are tiny little details in the highlight on the bottom lip, so I'm using a very sharp Mortoon violet color just to lightly fill in those funky little details in the bottom highlight. This pink is even brighter than the Deco Pink that we used before, so we are going to fill in a couple of darker areas, darker values of pink in the highlights. Not fill the entire highlight of this color, just fill in some of the darker values of pink. Now using your white pencil, you are going to go in over the areas that are supposed to be the whitest areas of the highlight, and you're just going to cover them with your white wax pencil. I am using Prismacolor as this is a very opaque white pencil. Now blending again with your solvent, go over the entire area just to blend everything smooth. Remember not to have too much solvent on your brush, you only need the tiniest amount. And you can blend right over the highlighted areas, you don't have to worry about the colors getting mixed together. And you can blend over the indented areas because you don't have to worry about the colors going into the indents either. Now for the really white highlights on the lips, and this is a really fun part, use a Jelly Roll pen and just go over the highlights in the lips that are completely white. This is going to make the lips look glossy in an instant. The Jelly Roll pen is really handy with other drawings if you need to do highlights in the eyes, or if you just need to do very white little highlights at the end of a drawing. The Jelly Roll pen is perfect, because even if you have multiple layers of colored pencil and you find that the white pencil is just not white enough, then the Jelly Roll pen is perfect. It's really easy to go overboard with these highlights, so just be careful. There may have been one or two little highlights there that I've done a bit too much, but it still looks okay. Now, just going in with the black, I'm filling in another layer in the mouth just to make it a little more of a darker value, as I don't think it is dark enough. And then I also go just behind the teeth to give it more of more depth and shadow. Now we are finally onto the teeth, so we are going to use our swatches to find the colors in the teeth. Now, teeth is a really I don't know, a scary thing to draw, because in the back of our minds we always go too light on the teeth. You don't want to go too dark, because we know their teeth are supposed to be nice and light and white, but in reality the teeth are actually quite dark and they have many colors. So for the teeth in this drawing, we are using a bit of ginger root, and we are going to just cover the top arches of the teeth with this color. So just the top half, and we're almost coloring in a sort of arch, and that's going to help make the tooth look rounded, or the teeth look rounded. Make sure you have a good copy of your reference photo handy with you while you're watching this video. You would be able to see more out of your copy than you would from this reference photo that I have just above. You would see smaller details and better coloring. So using our beige, we are going to fill in the areas of the teeth that are actually a little more yellow than other areas of the teeth. So if you look closely at your reference photo, you will see there are actually a few areas on the teeth that are a little more yellowish than other areas. So we are going to lightly fill in some of these areas with the beige. Very gently, you don't want the teeth to end up looking too yellow. So now using our putty beige, this is pretty much our base color for the teeth, so we are going to use this color all around. The only areas we are avoiding on the teeth are the areas that need to have the highlights. So look closely at your reference to see where the highlights are, and you can fill in the rest of the teeth completely, just skipping those highlighted areas. I know that sometimes in the videos it might look like I am pressing hard, but like I said, I never press firmly, always use a light hand. Um, Sometimes I press a little harder than other areas just to create a bit more value, but I'm never pressing very hard. Um, I never burnish. So using the beige sienna, it's got a pinkish kind of tone to it, so this is perfect. Because we are working under red lips, you want to have those pinkish reddish tones reflecting onto the teeth as well. So we are using this beige sienna just to create some of the darker values just under the upper lip area and on the areas that have a little more shadow. So using our more tomb violet, we are going to just better define the gaps between the teeth, or not so much the gaps, but just the parts between the teeth. And we're also going to use this just under the upper lip on the top of the tooth, just to help create more of a shadow because that area is quite dark. So that area is dark because of the shadow right beneath the upper lip as well as the shadow casted by the cherry. Going in again with our beige to just emphasize a little bit of the yellowish areas in the teeth. Then we are finally going to blend this first layer of the teeth with our solvent. So you want to blend the entire surface of each tooth with the solvent. This is going to make the teeth look really grey and dark, but this is good. The more you develop it, the more you will see that it starts looking more and more realistic. Now that our first layer is down, just give it a few seconds to dry and then use your French grey and your Prismacolor whites to bring out the highlights in the teeth. So French grey is quite a light grey, so we are going to use this as a highlighter, and we are just going to go over the areas that are a little lighter than the greys that are already existing on the teeth. Then using our white, we'll do the very highlighted areas of the teeth. Again, using the 10% French grey, we are going to fill in those highlights or semi-highlights on the bottom half of the teeth. And now we're going to go in with our white pencil and emphasize those highlights on the bottom half of the teeth as well. Observing your reference and slowly add those highlights. Take your time. And this time, using a 50% French grey, we are going to fill in the really dark shadowed areas of the teeth. Particularly this tooth has got the most shadow. It is the darkest. Forgive all the strange noises you might hear in the background. I have two Ridgeback girls and they are never very quiet, especially when I'm recording. Now using cinnamon, this has got a pinkish tone to it, so we're going to use this directly under the upper lip on the top area of the tooth, because we always want to use some sort of surrounding color within the center, because the lips will be reflecting color onto the teeth. We're going to do the same with the Pompeian red, just add a little bit of extra red on top of the tooth because of the reflection of the teeth surrounding it. It's very subtle changes, but it really helps add to the realism of what you're drawing. And usually you wouldn't think to add red or pink onto teeth because of the lips, but you always want to use your surrounding colors within the center. So just emphasizing a little more of the highlights on the teeth. And then we are good to go. Oh no, we're going to add a few more colors. Putty beige. To give it the smoother, cleaner kind of look. Using our cinnamon, we're just going to go in the back of the teeth there just to emphasize the look of the gums a bit more. And now we're going to do some final touches on the lips. So using our Mortoon Violet, we are going to go ahead and create even more shadow just there directly next to the cherry and directly under the upper lip above the teeth. We are going to use a neon pink, and this is really going to help that red pop out. So we're kind of using this as an underlayer for the final layer, if I can put it that way, and the neon pink is just going to make those lips extremely, I don't know, extremely bright and red. So then we're going to use the final layer with our permanent carmine, and we're going to go over the neon pink that we just added, just to reduce the pinkness a little more and make the lips very bright red. Now moving on to the cherries, I'm going to start by all the darker values. So I'm going to fill in all the dark shadows first, and I'm going to take my time with this because I want to use this as a guide for all my other colors. So by doing these dark shadows first, very lightly, it's gonna help me define each cherry, and it'll make it easier for when I place all the other colors down. Because I have the darker values down first, I can see exactly where the placement of all the details are of the cherry, and this is just gonna make it a lot easier for me. So for every single cherry, I'm going to use this Mortoon Violet and just fill in all the darker values. So because I'm working from right to left, I'm just putting a tissue down over the mouth because I don't want my hand to keep rubbing on top of the mouth. So this just helps protect your drawing a little bit more. So this drawing has taken me 6 hours to draw, and I have cut this down into an hour video. So this is going to take you a lot of time. Be patient, observe your reference all the time, and enjoy it. It's a process. It takes time, but once you are finished, it's an incredible reward. So now we're going in with our crimson red, and we are going to go over all the areas that we just created with the Mortoon violet, and we are going to fill in the entire surface of every cherry with this color, only avoiding the highlighted areas. using a little bit of pink in the highlighted areas because the highlights in the cherry are not completely white, they are a light pink. And now I'm going to carry on with the crimson lake and fill in the surface of every cherry, just avoiding the highlights. You'll notice that I pause for periods of time. This is when I'm really observing my reference photo and making sure that I am not covering areas that I shouldn't. That on some areas I'm pressing a little bit firmer than other areas. This is just to help create the different values using that colored pencil. This way they are going to better match the lips next to them, and it's also going to make them look brighter. Now using carmine, I'm going to go ahead and do this again. Cover the surface of the area. It's also a brighter red, so this is also going to make the cherries pop out a little bit more. If you happen to go over the highlighted areas with your solvent, that's okay. It will barely bring any color over, so don't worry too much about that. Now using my Mortoon Violet, I'm going to just go and create more of the darker values and just emphasize them a little more as they need to be darker. Using the crimson red, I'm going to go over the entire surface of all the cherries again to make it more of the reddish tone that we have in the lips. Now using our pink rose, we're going to fill in all the highlights because the highlights are not white, they are more of a pink color. We are using the putty beige just to create the little grayish areas in the water droplets. Now using our pink, which is a bit of a brighter pink, we are going to create a little more value in the highlighted areas. And then with our Crimson Lake, we are just going to add some finer little details. A little bit of cinnamon in the highlights and on the drops. And that is it. So congratulations on getting to the end of this tutorial. I hope that it was useful for you and that you managed to get something down and that you've learned something. Please send your pictures to me so that I can see how you go, and if you have any further questions that go with that, then feel free to send that as well. So that's it for the lips tutorial. If you guys want as well, there is a digital copy available to download for the patrons that pledge $15. So you guys have access to the digital download, the video tutorial, as well as a gift or reward that you'll receive every single month. For those that pledge $5 on Patreon, you guys have access to this video. And also, if you guys just want to buy the digital copy as a once-off without being a patron, you can do that by just getting the tutorial for $3.99 Australian dollars on my website or on Etsy if you just want the digital copy as a once-off. So yeah, so that's available for you guys as well. Next week's tutorial is going to be about how to draw a water droplet, so keep your eyes open for that one, and I hope to see you guys next week. Bye!